Hello, my name is Lauren Ewald, and I'm a member of LCH's Sales and Relationship Management team. And I'd like to welcome you to this session on connectivity options in our Forex Clear service. Forex Clear supports a number of approved trade source systems to help our members and clients clear FX transactions. And one of those systems is IHS Markit's MarkitSERV platform. I'm joined by Peter Altero from MarkitSERV's business development team. And in today's session, Peter and I are going to discuss MarkitSERV's relationship with Forex Clear, touching on topics including product scope, workflow options, future development plans, as well as the steps that you need to take in order to utilize this service to clear FX at LCH. So before we jump into the discussion, Peter, first and foremost, I just want to say a big thank you for joining us. And I'd also like to give you a chance to properly introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit more about your role at MarkitSERV.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Lauren, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you here today. Believe it or not, I've been with MarkitSERV now for 10 plus years. I spent the majority of my career focusing on rates and currently serve as the global head of business development for our rates franchise. For the past 5 years, I've also dedicated a large part of my time growing our centralized FX business. As we know, the FX market has gone through changes over the last couple of years, which very much resemble trends I've seen in the rates market, clearing being one of those examples. Having lived through it once, it's fun to apply lessons I've learned the first time around, of course, the second time around.
Thank you very much. And you look great for doing this for 10 years. Well done. And to get started, let's keep it pretty simple. Would you mind sharing a little bit about MarkitSERV's role in the industry and specifically where you stand in the FX space these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So MarkitSERV has over 20 years of experience standardizing the post-trade workflows across the OTC derivatives industry. We are best known for our coverage in other asset classes such as credit, equities, and rates, but more recently launched a successful and certainly growing FX franchise, which is split across our enterprise and centralized suite. What we do is we essentially lower the barrier of entry for customers looking to transact in these markets and certainly remove operational risk. We are not an execution platform. We are a pure middleware platform who help simplify complex workflows and connect customers to one another. We also connect to clearinghouses, trade repositories, and lastly, work with execution venues who wish to gain access to our growing network.
So you mentioned growing in FX, and I think that really mirrors what we're seeing in the LCH space. Over the past few years, we've seen significant growth in our Forex Clear platform. Assume that's the same for you guys, whether it's industry regulations driving it or just a general demand for bigger efficiencies?
Yeah, the last couple of years has been a lot of fun professionally. I wish we started out that well. When we started out, considering the service was built to help firms address mandatory clearing, and the rule never came to fruition, it was kind of a rocky start. Since then, of course, a lot has happened. The service was built in 2013. The option to clear was there and available, so many dealers did choose to voluntarily clear. However, volumes were very small. We only saw about 2 to 3 billion in daily notional at the time. Trade volumes remained low until, of course, phase 1 of UMR came into effect. Now, UMR did not mandate clearing per se, but in a way, it really did become the financial mandate of how our customers interoperated. Firms quickly realized cleared IM, in effect, was cheaper than bilateral IM. In 2017, we saw volumes spike and cleared a daily notional jump to around 40 billion per day. Currently, where we stand post-2020, we observe a little over 80 billion of notional processed for clearing per day and expect that trend will continue to grow as we move forward.
So I think Forex Clear was also built off the back of that expected clearing mandate, which, as you mentioned, it never materialized. But so Forex Clear started as an NDF clearing platform, but given customer and member demands, we've expanded our product set pretty extensively over the past few years. Is it safe to assume that your service can also support more than NDFs now?
Yeah, that's correct. So as you say, NDFs gave us our start, so we're grateful for that. Since then, we've enhanced the platform and now support G10s. We've added physically settled FXO for confirmation and also for clearing. We've added spots and forwards as outrights or hedges to an FXO. And last but not least, we successfully went live with NDOs, which was the first week of January, and help process the first transaction between Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan down to LCH.
All done. Way to start the year off strong.
Couldn't have done it without you.
So now that we know that you can support our full FX suite, would you mind walking us through how it actually works?
Yeah, sure. So in order to leverage market for post-trade services, firms must first connect to our matching platform called TradeServe. Now, we offer multiple connectivity options to access TradeServe. Higher volume customers can either write to our FPML over MQSpec, which is our most subscribed form of connectivity, or they can write to our Fix API, which was recently launched in 2020. Lower volume customers or new customers who have not yet landed on a connectivity option can always log directly into our user interface to accept or match their trades. Lastly, customers who are currently already connected to our Market Trade Manager solution, or more commonly referred to as MTM, can now also use that service for FX trades. Buy-side customers prefer our MTM service as it's a one-stop shop for cross-asset workflow as well as their paper confirms. Once connected, the workflow is extremely straightforward. Firms rely on our proprietary matching logic to link their ledges, match them, and then we send them to clearing. We make all statuses available to firms so they have full transparency and visibility of their trade from the point of a ledge all the way up until when the trade clears and so forth.
So let's say you have an existing FX customer on your platform. What type of time frame and operational lift can they expect if they want to move into a cleared FX workflow instead of the bilateral arrangements that so many people still have today? And if you wouldn't mind, could you also touch on whether or not these users would need to maybe involve, whether it's a clearing broker or they're executing brokers, anybody else who's part of the process?
Yeah, no, sure, of course. So I typically tell customers that the pace in which they go live on our services is really completely up to them. I've seen firms get live for clearing within a week. I've seen others take as long as 6 months. From a serve perspective, there's certainly an onboarding process they must go through. We can't just snap our fingers and make somebody go live on the platform. There are legal docs and onboarding forms which must be completed before we can say that you're production ready. And this is really to ensure that when firms do go process that first trade on our platform down to you or to any clearinghouse, there really is no problem with that transaction. It's a smooth and an efficient workflow. And in order to do that, we need to have the proper static data on file. I can tell you we really do strive to get onboardings done within a week on our side. Firms must also take into consideration the other agreements which must be amended or negotiated to be able to clear, such as CSAs. I'm sure that's a phrase that you hear quite a bit when you're out talking to customers.
Once or twice, maybe. Yeah.
For participants who are not members at the clearinghouse, they also need to decide who they will use as a clearing broker. And that is the million-dollar question for them. Lastly, they will need to onboard at the clearinghouses. So in many cases, we found that clearing brokers will help streamline the onboarding process on behalf of the customer. Their familiarity with the process really does help move things along. There is a large focus on the MarkitSERV side to automate and streamline the onboarding process as much as we can. We're collaborating currently with some of our internal colleagues in the counterparty manager teams, and we'll soon be in beta with workflows to allow firms to leverage the onboarding accelerator tool, which is widely adopted across the industry.
Now, what about somebody who maybe has not historically used you guys for FX, but has an extensive relationship in another asset class? It sounds like you guys have really streamlined the onboarding process, but if they're new to an asset class, are you able to leverage anything that you already have for them, or is this going to be starting from scratch for them?
Yeah, a lot of the documentation that they filled out previously can be leveraged here. So if you're an existing credit customer or a rates customer, instead of going through a full onboarding process, existing customers can simply sign an addendum to their existing legal agreements with Market, and then we can set them up for FX so they can get on the platform and start processing.
So going to change course a little bit. You mentioned that kind of the platform under the platform is called TradeServe. And I know that you and the team hit a significant milestone to close out 2020 with TradeServe. Could you elaborate a little bit on that and specifically how it's going to contribute to your FX business this year?
Yeah, sure. So TradeServe is a modern platform as a service. It uses microservices, architecture, and cloud infrastructure to make the platform highly flexible, scalable, and certainly reliable. Phase 1 of TradeServe went live in 2018 for NDFs initially without a hitch. And this past summer, we migrated the remainder of our FX footprint, which consisted of FXO, spots, and forwards. Successfully completing large technology programs like TradeServe is naturally hard. It's not easy by design. Successfully deploying phase 2 while all of our testing, dev, and our product teams were working from home is unprecedented. This program was one of the best projects I've worked on in my career. I'm very proud of the team, and I'm definitely excited about what we have planned for 2021, and I'm happy to share some of that with you here today. Now that we're live, we're looking ahead at what's next. As we discussed earlier, we started 2021 with a bang and launched NDO in collaboration with LCH, seeing our first trade in early January. Later this year, we will release block and allocation functionality, which is an important buy-side workflow, and would like to get that done before buy-sides start looking at UMR and approach those UMR dates. We're also actively working with several ECNs who are looking to connect into TradeServe to submit transactions on behalf of mutual customers. This will provide firms who actively trade on ECNs another option to access the TradeServe network without completing a full-on build themselves.
Plenty to look forward to this year, and I think plenty reason to have a lot of bilateral conversations with anyone who has questions on any of those things that Peter just mentioned. And so on that, as clients are formalizing their 2021 roadmaps and setting their objectives for the year, is there anything specifically that you recommend that they keep in mind?
Yeah, I highly encourage firms to get in touch and engage. Much of the MarkitSERV roadmap is decided by our customers. We want to deliver functionality which provides the most value to the industry, and therefore we really rely on industry feedback. I also encourage customers to get in touch and learn about our mutual services and get themselves educated. With the additional phases of UMR around the corner, I anticipate a rush of customers looking to onboard. We can easily get firms into UAT now so they can get a feel of the workflow ahead of any production activity.
No, I think that's great advice. So Peter, once again, I just want to thank you very much for joining us in this session. And for those who have watched, please feel free to reach out to the team at MarkitSERV or us at LCH if you have any questions on what we discussed, or even if you simply want to open a dialogue about FX clearing. So thanks again for watching, and I hope to speak to all of you soon.
Thanks, Lauren.